Go ahead and do that one.
Billy Joe is a senior, and she's a nursing major. She graduates this year. Caleb is in ROTC. He's a junior. Dustin is a sophomore, and he's going to be a phys ed health major and a coach. He wants to coach. And Aaron is, at this time, undecided. He's our freshman at all of that.
Well, I would think, yeah, I think about it a lot because I usually handle all the forms and stuff, and I think about having all four of them in college and but we wanted them to go to college, so it's expected. You know, we planned on it. We wanted them to go to Christian college, so yeah. But I constantly the changes of life, but it's comforting to know they're all there together, though.
You wanted them to go to college. Was a Christian college important, and if so, why?
We wanted to go to Christian college. I felt like that one of the biggest things is that you usually met your best friends then. And so we wanted to go to Christian college, and we wanted them to go away to college. So we didn't want them in the local community. And we just felt like that we wanted them to have 4 extra years of spiritual growth before they kind of moved out of the house. And that's, how all of that came in.
I think the plus is that with a Christian school, they pick up where we left off. There's still curfews, and I realize they're out there together too, but it's a time to grow spiritually, and you've got Christian professors and people who care about them that are going to guide them and still cover those things. But the fact that they are on their own and they're going to make those choices, and it's under those guidelines that you can sleep at night and you still worry, but someone else is picking up the parenting part, and there are people that can counsel them and help them, and people they can go to.
Sending 4 kids to college, been a lot of restless nights with that. But really, when Billy Joe went to college, we went to orientation, went through the whole process, and I, like every other parent there, that was the number one concern: money. How are we going to do this? Because I saw the prices too. But after everything was over that day, Annette went back to her room, and I went to a parent question and answer seminar with about 8 to 10 professors. And so sitting there, I wasn't really going to answer any questions. I went for the coffee, and I just wanted to sit and listen. So I was sitting there, and the parent beside me, that was his big concern. He said, "Yeah, it's a great school. How am I going to afford it?" And I thought, man, that's a question everybody in here is asking. But one of the professors said something that to this day is why all 4 of my kids are there. He said, going to a Christian school, Olivet, is a faith thing. And I thought, I don't have the money, but I do have faith. So right after that, a parent came to me and said, I can't afford to send my kids to a Christian college. But God kind of impressed on me, said, Gary, you can't afford not to. So it became not an issue of whether they were going to college, Christian college, because they were, but we had faith, we just didn't have the money. And so, but the faith thing kind of came about. God came through scholarships and just a lot of different ways. 100% a God thing. I mean,
if you're in the ministry, everything tends to be a God thing. It requires a lot of faith. But when it comes to your kids, if you're a parent, you spend a lot of time in prayer, and you know that God can take care of them in the little things. So when you get to the big things like college, you depend on your spiritual life to carry them through, and for them to grow stronger, we needed them to be in a Christian school. Well, you've got to give your kids roots, and you've got to give them wings. And it was time for her to have the wings. And so you have to have faith again, to trust that God's going to take care of her and everything that you've taught her along the way. And she was ready. So we had to be. It wasn't a matter of choice or whether we liked the idea or not. She was ready for the next phase of her life. So we had to quickly adjust and settle. It was probably hardest with the first one, though.
Well, for us, we didn't really plan on all 4 kids are going to Olivet. God just worked with each one of them individually. But yes, there have been times all along the way where God has just told us that, just through a peaceful feeling, through what's said at orientation, just through a professor, just constantly that this was the right place for our kids. They were learning, they were growing spiritually, they have great things to say about the college. I think there's lots of times that, I just knew that through all the circumstances, that God kind of got in the midst of that through people, through professors, and just kind of helped bring the kids along. And yeah, we've been rewarded 100-fold for them going to all of that. So.
I've seen probably the biggest change in Caleb. He went to Africa last year on a missions trip, and it was life-changing. He'll never be the same, and it was amazing to see his growth and maturity. And it was tough letting him go there and seeing him venture that far by himself, and but he was with a group from the school, and that helped a lot to know that he was going to be able to do that. So that was probably the most growth I've seen in any of the kids, was that trip for him.
I've seen, just when they come home from break and for the summer, they're reading their Bible, they're praying, all the above. They're just doing things, and when you see them after a little while, you see this. Their physical appearance begins to change. They get older, they're getting more mature, facial expressions change, and just kind of seeing that maturity, the spiritual maturity, the talking about spiritual things, and even talking about spouses and all that, and the way that just the way they talk about it, they're hearing a lot. One of the things that, the kids talk about a lot is the way that devotions are done in class. The way that teachers share with them a little bit, and some of the teachers have taken some extra time with the kids. And so I think that in that way, I see some spiritual development, because one thing to see mom and dad do it, it's another thing to see another grown-up that has the same kind of faith, that maybe even though A's and B's are important, but to see that even in that, when you're in a class, that the spiritual life is just as important as that. I think in that way that's made an impression on the kids.
The song that comes to mind is Thanks. Thanks for giving to the Lord. Even in ministry, there are times that you don't know where your money's going, but the product, the end result, that's the faith thing again. And they're going to touch the lives of a lot of people. Billy Jo said nursing, and every day she's going to be able to witness to someone and share God's love. And it's tough, and it's a struggle with 4 kids in college sometimes. And you pray that God will help with those things, and that there'll be a way that they'll get scholarships or funding or help with that. And it just comes. It does. And God's faithful.
It's real important, because the money that is given for the kids, probably our kids couldn't all go there without that. It's a real possibility we wouldn't have been able to do that. But and the money that's given and the gifts that are given, it's incredible, the amount, and just the networking that they're having. They're making friends, but they're also meeting people that care about Olivet. Right. Annette and I don't have that with our colleges. So our kids are all going to have this common bond with Olivet, with those that have given, and the significance of giving to others and helping somebody else along the way. And so I would imagine that my kids would probably return that someday, to doing that for another student, just because they've been helped so much. Well, dropping off your most precious cargo, leaving the child there, it's overwhelming to parents. It's just absolutely overwhelming. You don't have time. You're dealing with all the things of getting the kid in college, making sure the ACT scores are done, the FAFSA's filled out, everything filled out on time. And when you're doing it, I know as a parent you're overwhelmed. I was. I'm just snowed under by it all, and just the amount of forms, and the kids are filling it out, and then just when you start to get a handle on it, they start getting cold feet, not wanting to go, and then you're just kind of doing that all summer. But what I would tell the parents, my thing is that it became a faith thing for us, and that I thought that other than dedicating our children when they were babies, and we did that, and we did that in a way that we meant for that to last forever, and that we were going to raise them in a Christian home, we were going to have Christian principles at home, and we were going to have them in church. Even though I'm a pastor, we didn't bring the bad things of the church home, and I pastored great churches that loved my family and never had anybody that didn't. And so they've been loved and cared for. And but one of the most exciting things about getting the kids in college is that they're growing as a child into a college student. I'm growing as a parent that is raising a child that was just dedicated into a grown person. And boy, being able to pass my children off to Olivet for that period of time has probably been the most substantial move next to dedicating our children that we've ever done. I mean, it is, all of them had matured and blossomed and are Christian and have learned things that I couldn't have taught them. And, you know, even though the forms are overwhelming, and even though the money is always a secondary issue, we make it a primary issue. The minute I knew that's where God wanted them, I just went to pray. I knew God, if He wanted them there, then He was going to come through. And all of that has been more than generous in helping each kid through those things.
I agree. I think it's a transition time. We don't get our kids back. We get adults when they come back home. And it's different when they come home. There's almost 6 adults in the house when we're all here together. So you're talking to a grown adult, basically, and that has helped in that transition. Because I'm not sure, when we left and started in the Army, when we came back home, they still tried to put us in the same Sunday school class with the teens and stuff. And we were different. We were adults, and the transition and all of that really helps with that part of it.
No doubt that all of that's been worthy of the confidence. I would say it's completely the opposite. We're the debtors in it. You know, we even though college costs a lot, we feel like we're the ones that have benefited mostly from our kids going to all of that than the college itself. Well, you know, a couple of things that come to mind on what warms my heart about what's happened at all of that as far as faculty and staff. I mean, the kids talk about going over to somebody's house on Sunday night for not necessarily a small group, but some kind of group they have. The kids have all loved that. They've had people do their laundry, take them out to eat, just all kinds of things. Even Dr. Bowling bought, I think coffee for one of the kids one time, and just a lot of little things like that have been done over the years of caring. And, I know with our freshmen coming in, they kind of lost along the way of just taking care of some laundry, helping them figure out a problem. Professors that will walk them through maybe just being homesick, or just being unsure of their major, spending a little extra time, or just praying with them, I know that the kids all have certain people they can go to, certain professors that they like, that they can go and talk to about a problem. But, in that way, the faculty, has especially been very good for all the kids as far as just knowing, what they want to be, or learning what they want to be, I guess, more than actually knowing what they want to be, but helping them with the process.
Annette, anything that comes to mind?
Dusty was struggling a little bit, trying to pick a major, and he started off in one field and decided maybe not, and he immediately talked to one of the other professors of the field he was considering, and they just connected, and it really helped Dustin a lot to decide that would probably fit him as well, because they were compatible, and he had a lot to share with Dustin to help and guide him a little bit. So that was a good help for Dusty.
Coach Lee, has done quite a bit with Dusty, helping him, and I know that Gary Newsom did quite a bit. And there's other professors. I don't know all the names of the professors, but yeah, I think so that they stepped in and went to bat for us. I'm always been a believer that kids have to learn to fail. If they make a mistake, they make a mistake. It's not life in it, it's just a mistake, and they go on. And I think probably a lot of times in those areas, they're not really coming to the parent. They're more going to a professor, where they're struggling with a grade or maybe flunking. They don't necessarily want to call the parent and say, Mom, Dad, I'm doing this. So they go to a professor and kind of work it out. So in that way, they've done a good job at helping them. And I think probably in the areas of spiritual growth, I don't know, the kids haven't really talked about any one person going to them, but I think the modeling of it by, the faculty has been real helpful.
As a teacher, I'd probably cry. It would just be overwhelming. I mean, you need a place where your kids can go, where they're going to be safe, and you can trust someone to take your place as a parent and help and guide them and make sure that as they become that adult, that they're making the right choices and the right decisions. And it's not like they intervene every day, but they're there, sort of like the other safety net that the parent's role is. And that's important as a parent. And I'd probably just say thanks and try not to cry.
I think I would say, our kids are going there, all 4 of them are going there, and this is It's probably one of the best times of their life. You know, they're going to college. They got a little money, not much, but got a little money to spend, and having a lot of relationships and able to take classes they enjoy, and to be around other young adults that they enjoy. I think I would tell the professors and faculty, just thank you. I mean, you know, what they are doing is continuing to help these guys that have come in there. And as parents, we want them to grow. We want them to be good spiritual people. We want them to love the Lord. But, you know, even in that, they're getting a good education. And I would just tell the faculty that I think their job must be one of the most hardest, but the most important, because they're training leaders. They're probably going to do more to sharpen them as leaders than I will in that period of time. So they are the voice, I guess, to these kids now. And I think the faculty, they hold a lot of weight, and what they're doing has been very helpful in my kids' lives.
One of the things, too, is they stress for the kids to be in some type of service and giving back. And our kids have all been involved in that, whether helping with the homeless or trips to Chicago where they've done projects and things. And it teaches them the importance of what God wants them to do in their lives and how it's important to give back. At our church, we do worship, accountability, and service. And sometimes it's hard to get the person to the next step of service, and all of that helps the kids with that a lot. I pray for Dr. Bowling. I'm glad he's still at all of that. That was important to us. Also the chapel. I have in my prayer journal, I have a page just for all of that. And it has a picture of the chapel and the plans. That's going to be a spiritual help to a lot of kids that are going to come to the campus. And we actually have a different college on our district, but the chapel, when you walk in, it's important. And you feel God's presence there, and that's important in their lives especially.
What I pray is that, you know, I think there's such a crisis of leadership. You know, I think that we need young adults that are leaders, and the next generations of leaders in the church, not only the Nazarene church, but the church, are going to come to the colleges. And I just pray that Olivet keeps a tremendous vision for the instilling leadership and character and the kind of relationship and networking that they're doing now, because I think the embodiment of that connects the church together and helps everybody not to feel alone. But I just think that's why our kids are at Olivet. We feel a connection from top to bottom, from football to nursing, whatever it is. We feel there's a connection. We feel that no matter where our kids are in this, that they're being trained. And you know, maybe we call it next level living. It's the fact that not only are they getting a good quality education, they're getting some really good spiritual leadership. And so I pray that just Olivet keeps that uniqueness of that.